Hi, I'm Christina from ZMOF Entertainment International, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Health, Wealth, and Happiness from the Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman. This episode is sponsored by 1 Minute Calm. Breathe, live, and love the moment that you're in. Hi, I'm Christina, and welcome to another episode of Health, Wealth, and Happiness Interviews to Inspire. Our next guest has over 30 years in the labor movement as a lawyer and labor leader with the single-minded goal of more workers having respect and dignity on the job through their union. The vast majority of her work life has been in a male-dominant environment, including 4 years in the Air Force. She has spent a lot of her time and energy figuring out how to build more diverse workplaces. Chris has now reached the point in her career where she wants to invest in passing the baton to the next generation of emerging leaders and is devoting her energy to executive coaching of labor leaders. She came to be a mom and stepmom and found love in a way many would call later in life, but in a way she celebrates every day. Her current obsession is the practice of finding peace and calm in daily life. We welcome our guest, Chris.
Hi there. Thank you.
Chris, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Well, I've been in the labor movement for a long time and am passionate about it. So I guess basically I'm a labor leader, I'm a labor activist, but my current role is a senior advisor to the president, which really means I'm just trying to help the organization do everything well. And that's at the AFL-CIO, which is the umbrella organization for labor unions in our country.
Chris's health word is empathy and meditation. Tell us a little bit more about that, Chris.
Well, it comes from the fact that a lot of my career has been very adrenaline driven. So I was a labor lawyer, which, definitely gets your adrenaline going when you're being an advocate for someone, and then coming into the labor movement inside, things are very highly charged. There's a lot at stake, and it's just a lot of adrenaline. So I had over time to find some remedy, some balance to that adrenaline. And that really has come through meditation, yoga, deep breathing, just trying to balance out the highly charged work environment with some peace, some balance. So that's why I chose those words. Empathy is there too, because again, this is a learned lesson after many decades that when you're in a position of conflict or anger, that one of the best ways to work out of that is to try to imagine what the other person is going through. So that's a learned practice. It is something I work at, but is also helps with that balance.
So how often do you get to chance to meditate?
I try to meditate almost every day. And it's a practice, right? It's not something, I'm not an expert, I'm a practitioner. So it might be in the morning just to kind of center myself, calm myself down before the day starts. It's interesting. I found I was taking my blood pressure to kind of, check it out for a while. And first thing in the morning is when my blood pressure was highest, which just taught me something about how I'm coming into the day. So I try just to, take a few minutes in the morning. If something gets intense during the day, just do a little breathing. It's every day, but it varies on when I kind of call on it.
Yeah, I get it. I have another podcast that is a mindful podcast. It's 10 minutes. It comes out 3 times a week for the idea that, okay, when things are, I just need to break, and to get you to think about things a little bit differently, because you can get, especially in a job like yours, under so much pressure, so many demands.
Yes. Yes, and you lose focus when you're in that kind of pressure cooker and you're reactive, you're caught in a kind of reactive state. And one of the things I'm studying and trying to learn is like, how do you get out of the reactive state so that you can make better decisions or be more creative, have a response instead of a react. And that's, again, a practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Because with a job like yours, how many hours would you say you're on a day?
Well, I was chief of staff here for some time, and that was unrelenting, like from the minute you open your eyes to the minute you close your eyes, and the pace of the texting and the emails, which just never slow down. And so that pace really led to a lot of burnout. And that, I think that was the lesson for me, is how do we do these jobs without burning out?
Yes, absolutely. And what I love about today's culture is we're much more open about meditation, mindfulness, understanding is, hey, we've got emotions or we're going to burn out if we don't get that break.
Exactly, exactly. And burnout, and this is one of the things I'm doing a lot with some of my colleagues now, and doing some coaching, executive coaching with some of the folks here, is how can you keep up that level of performance without also burning out? If our wonderful new emerging leaders are burning out in their 40s, we're losing all that talent. So it's like, how do you pull back and then give yourself a chance to not get to that burnout phase?
So tell me a little bit more about the empathy. Have you worked with a lot with that in the position that you're in now and over the years?
It is, again, it's sort of a learning, like I really am approaching a lot of these things as okay, how can I practice that better? I think what I realize when I look back at things that fed a lot of my anger about a situation or an inequity or this isn't fair, or again, a lot of male dominated work environments where you kind of have to push down your feelings. Trying to like go to another place of imagining what that other person is going through really took the temperature down and gave me a chance to think, okay, wait a minute, let me look at this from another perspective. Let me turn the circle around and see what might also be going on here. And that was a way for me to again just dial down that temperature, not be angry, not be frustrated, not have that kind of energy, that kind of negative energy.
So do you have anybody that kind of inspired you when it came to learning about these things that you say, I like to watch them or I like to read about them?
That's a great question. I will be very honest that I am a huge believer in therapy. I think it's a gift if we have access to it. We can find a good therapist. I think it's a wonderful gift. And I will say definitely therapy helps pull out like that, where is this coming from? What is another way to look at that? And I think just looking at more in my family life, like looking at how, we've all worked through various challenges, you see that, all right, empathy is probably the thing that's going to get us through.
Yeah. And well, we learn all those lessons early in life, don't we? Starting with family.
Yes, exactly. That's where those challenges start, right? Exactly.
The first therapy, they say, I'm actually a trained psychologist is my original studies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And through your siblings is your first times that you have to really work through all of those emotions. And how are we going to do this? So when mom and dad go, I've had enough, you deal
Yeah,
with it.
right.
And let the kids figure it out.
Well, and it's so interesting because those lessons persist. So I'm 63 and I'm still coming to awarenesses around how me and my siblings related. And, I talked with my husband about this a lot. Like, things come up and we're like, yeah, you know what, that resonates back to when I was a kid trying to figure this out, trying to develop my identity, trying to resolve a dispute, with a sibling. It really does. Those lessons are there, or those learned behaviors are there. And then you kind of, as you get older, you're like, oh, yeah, I think I know where that came from.
So is there advice that you would give to others in learning how to find that time for meditation, learning how to be a more empathetic person from the lessons you've learned?
I think the key is to bite it off in small chunks. Sometimes when I talk to folks about meditation, I can see them roll their eyes or think, oh, I don't have time, or that's, too fluffy for me. And so one approach has been to just talk about breathing. Like, okay, no need to meditate. How about let's just try taking a breath, just breathing in, breathing out. Another method I love is box breathing, just like taking those four, take a breath in, hold it, take a breath out, hold it, just slowing yourself down. And that seems to be more palatable to folks, who aren't ready to sit in meditation for an hour. I've done that too, like an hour of quiet meditation. That's really challenging, right? But just take it in a small bite. Just a little breathing slows your mind down, slows your body down, and gives you a chance to get into a more responsive rather than reactive state.
Also, I do 1 minute calm videos that are meditative videos where, like you said, an hour is hard.
Yeah.
But if you can break it off in a 1 minute chunk at a time, and I think the word meditation scares people, and it's just like,
Yeah.
just watch this pretty beach scene for 1 minute.
Exactly.
That's meditating.
That's all it is. That's right. That's exactly right. Just a minute. Just start with a minute. Yeah.
So, Chris, your wealth word is retirement security. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's funny. It's kind of a wonky sounding term, but it really summarizes where I am in my life, which is, like I said, I'm 63. And so what is it that I want from the rest of my life? And honestly, the key to that is having a little bit of financial security under that decision making. I do want to give the labor movement a lot of credit for where I'm at in this place because I've worked for unions my whole career. And unions have fought for and have themselves, very good retirement plans, defined benefit plans, pension plans, as well as 401ks. But the pension plans really create that sense of choice and security that you can get as you approach, your retirement age. And retirement doesn't mean, I'm going to stop working and I'm not going to do anything. Retirement just means, do I have the freedom to step back from an intense, stressful, or time-driven job? So to me, that term retirement security just means, can I make choices at this point in my life? As I'm in my 60s, what choices do I have? And that's what retirement security feels like.
I watched a documentary recently that actually talked about the history of retirements and how it started as a business and eventually got adopted by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just didn't know because it's like, oh, you think about it, but it's like, it's creeping closer every day.
That's right.
Yeah. And what does it mean to the average person?
Well, it's funny. When I was in the Air Force, I was, very young, and the Air Force had sort of these retirement or investment folks who would come around and sit you down and talk about investment. And of course, I was whatever, 24. I was like, what, I don't care about this. But this one person made an impact on me. He said, look, just put little bits away and over time it builds. He said, the markets are going to go up and down, the economy is going to change. But if you just slow and steady, put something away, it'll build up. And something must have resonated. And it kind of, I was like, okay, well, that makes sense because he's not asking me to put a lot away. And so I think that's it. It's just like biting things off in small chunks. And we're trying to teach our children this now who are young adults, like just small and steady, put it away where, you don't even know it's there. And, think about, that life plan as something that comes to fruition much later. It takes a little foresight, but I think even if it's $50 a week, whatever it is, it's just put it away, think about as an investment in your future and having options. The other thing, of course, is find a good union job that has a good pension plan. And then, the pension plan is really putting all that expertise into making sure that you have a good retirement plan. That's something we fight for every day because it's harder and harder to find really good pensions, but they're out there. And that really can be a game changer.
As this is a podcast for women, one of the things I think about is when we talk about pay disparity and, retirement disparity, where a woman might take time off from work for raising children, they're getting paid less. Have you seen that? And have you been able to champion for those things?
Well, absolutely. And, you mentioned sort of the government kind of taking on some responsibility here through Social Security. Well, Social Security is great if you have a paycheck coming in that is going into Social Security. I have a friend who she and her husband started a small business. They had like a stall in a farmer's market and it was in his name. And she didn't think about it because it was a small business. There's no payroll. Well, she worked alongside him for a decade and building this small business. Not a single dime went into her Social Security. That was an inequity for her. And it really, really struck me that if you're not mindful of that, if you're not keeping an eye on either Social Security or a 401k or something, yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, when you're raising children and you're not working, nothing's going to Social Security. So I think women really do have to look out for themselves in those phases to make sure that they're building something as well, not just through their partners or their spouses, or if they're single, obviously, making sure that you're building something up for your future.
What have been your personal goals and aspirations as you're working towards retirement?
I think it's just not worrying. I just want to, have less worry, not looking for any grand goal or a cruise around the world, but just less worry. And honestly, it's funny, as I get older, I want to simplify more, smaller, living space, less stuff, just having life be simpler. There's a financial piece of that, but it's just the goal, I think, is yes, would like to travel, would like to maybe do things that are more, charity oriented than payroll oriented, doing things that are passion projects, pursuing things that, gardening and cooking, the things that don't pay the bills, right? So having that freedom is requires some planning.
And so as you're giving this advice to the children, what things have you told them to think about?
I think that, finding an account, a retire, not doesn't have to be a retirement account, but an investment, it can be an investment account or it could be a Roth IRA, but something where the money's there, but it's not easy to draw from, because you could have a savings account, but it's easy to pull money from a savings account. So it's having it be separate and on the side, and then just having it regular, something coming out of your paycheck just regularly go in there. So it's just, you don't even pay attention to it and, until much later. So that's what we're working with them on right now, actually.
So now going back to your parents' generation, what do you see as a difference between what retirement meant to them?
Yeah, my dad was in the military and he was very service oriented. And I think in his mind, he would just work a full career and there would be this retirement, provided by the military. He actually died younger than, any of us wanted. He was in his 50s. And so the plan wasn't necessarily there, but I think he had that view that, oh, it'll be taken care of, right? He didn't have that view that he had to kind of step in. Same thing with my mom. It was that generation. I think Social Security was kind of this prominent thing, but also just a sense that they were just hardworking people who didn't think that they should be thinking about, retirement security. So I think that's a lesson definitely I've learned, and certainly from losing my dad so early, that, you have to, you can't count on things going a certain way. So, how do you just, make sure that you're going to feel safe, you're going to feel secure regardless of what happens. If you lose a job, if you get ill, these are things that happen in life, and you just have to prepare for them. But neither of my parents were very, savvy financial people. So that wasn't something that we learned. And we have a financial person now. And she said one of her first questions was, what did you learn as a child about financial planning? And we both said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, it is funny. It just wasn't something that got talked about. We were, middle class family, and you just kind of plodded along and didn't think in those terms. So, and I do want, that's something we just really want our kids to be more comfortable thinking about.
I watched a documentary about money, and that was one of the things that the financial advisor had said is stop being afraid to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like, not appropriate or something. And it's so real. And in fact, I wish our kids had a course in high school or college that was just on that personal financial planning, personal financial security. Such an important piece of your life, it just, but maybe someday.
That is a repeated sentence I hear again and again from me and from others, is like, we need to learn how to write a check, write a mortgage, what are taxes? Your
Yes.
parents are taking care of you. That stuff is for you.
Yeah.
You're 18 and you're like, I have to do what?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, hello, it's Sylvia on Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Just taking a moment's break here for a walk that I'm taking through the hills. Through the hills, you can hear the cars. You gotta dot out of the way on these curvy roads. People live in these beautiful mountains here, and got my water bottle. And let me just say, it's empty, but that is health. Getting outside, enjoying new scenery. Look at that, look at that. I'm about to climb up that hill. It looks small from here, but that's like half a mile away. You should get out, enjoy some nature, get some walking done, get some good breathing in, and then get home and rest your feet. That is health. Chris, your happiness word is deepening love. Tell us about this. This sounds wonderful.
You sort of said this in the beginning. It did take me a long time to figure out love. I was 41 when I adopted my son Jesse, and I was 55 when I got married to the love of my life. And I've shared this with a lot of folks who are going through breakups or heartbreak. Sometimes these things take time, and because family and love came to me so late, I think I do. I mean, everyone values love, but I think it's even more precious, as I did spend a long time looking, searching, wondering, and now have just a wonderful relationship with my husband. And just we both been through enough things in life to really know how to really engage in a wonderful partnership, and in just really valuing and deepening love every day. So it's, I just I'm grateful that things happened when they did, but there was a long time where I wondered if I would ever figure out love.
So you're a mom and a stepmom, you mentioned.
I am. Yeah, we're a blended family, which is, has all of it's fine. I wish there were more books or more things written about blended families, because blended families have all their own challenges, but we have, navigated all of those, and really have just very proud of both kids. And when you bring a child into a relationship, you have a pre-existing relationship with that child. It's, children are the thing that you will never do anything to interfere with your relationship with your child, right? It's like a sacred relationship. And then you add on a marriage or a loving marital relationship, and it's, there you have to balance that and have to be generous and understanding about where you have to give and take. And children, they didn't choose the relationship, so the kids have their own journeys to navigate about accepting that. But we're in a great place now, and very proud of both of them, and feeling like we've gotten over those barriers. But I remember literally going to a bookstore and looking for a book on step parenting, and the only one I found was like sort of like almost joking like comedy book about and I'm like, no, this is real. I need something that's really, going to guide me and support me on this. And maybe that's changed, but at the time I could not find any sort of good, heartfelt advice. So maybe that's an area for more more authors to step into.
On that note, what type of advice would you give for somebody who's looking at that next step in blending the family, of going, okay, it's time that I think I want to spend my life with this person, but I have this child, and what advice do you have?
That's an excellent question. I think the first thing I would say is, and this certainly was something I balanced, is try to like take the fantasies and put them aside, because the fantasy is, oh, it's all going to be perfect and magical, and and that's of course what you want, but that puts too much pressure on everyone. And I think the key is just to create space, patience, oceans of patience. We often say oceans of patience, and just space for people to, for everyone in the family unit to come to this in their own way. Really work at that loving relationship with your partner, because that is the foundation of why you're all together. And so that that relationship really needs to be strong and inspiring for the kids. They can look to that as something, oh, okay, this is a good thing, even though it's not what I chose. It's a good thing because I can see the love that's there. So putting a lot of work into the loving relationship, I think, is really important.
Yeah, because it's not always the Brady Bunch with the kids and the dog Max.
Nope, nope, it is not. It is not. And you want it to be that way, and you can't just wish it, right? You have to just be, okay, it's imperfect. It's okay. We're gonna give this space. But both of our kids were there at our wedding, and they came there willingly. That was their choice to be there, and it was a beautiful day. So we're very thankful for that. And they're their own people, and they get to be their own people. And that's for parents, that's a whole parenting thing, right? It's just like letting go and letting your kids be their own people.
I think you just said something really, really important right there. It was their choice. You
Yes.
listen to the child and let them make a decision about how they're feeling and what they're going through too, because it's going to be a dynamic that changes their everyday life.
Exactly, exactly. And I will say, my very wise sister-in-law, who's also a minister, is the one who really counseled us on that. And she said, this needs to be their choice. So let's talk to them outside of you and just make sure that they're, ready to be there. And that was really, really good advice. And it worked out well. Although you kind of think, well, what if they say no? But if you give someone a choice, you have to be willing to live with the yes or the no. But we're thankful that they said yes.
I have a slightly personal question. When was the moment that you knew this is the one? This is it?
Oh, it's funny because I've told my husband this. I looked in the mirror after we'd spent some time together, and I looked in the mirror and I said, I love him. And it was like my awareness, which I think is important when you have to kind of come to your own awareness of what love is. Part of it was just seeing that him in a situation we were in where he was just being incredibly kind, and it was one of those things where he didn't know I was watching him, but I could see him interact with our kids and with family, and I could just see that fundamentally he was a kind and good human being, and it just sparked a whole nother level of relationship.
I just can't help. I'm just smiling ear to ear because that's what love is, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It took a while, but it was the first time I felt it in that way, and it. So patient. I'm glad I waited for the real thing.
All right, Chris, you have the option of choosing health, wealth, or happiness as a gift. Which one would you choose and why?
Yeah, I think it has to be happiness. And this is maybe again a stage of the life of my life that I'm at. It's just so clear that where the really wonderful days come from is being happy. And that, that's the prize, that's the ultimate gift. So I think I would have to choose that. And just that no matter what else is happening in life, that finding those moments of joy, of happiness are what makes it worthwhile.
Here's our question from our previous guest.
What steps have you taken to prioritize your mental well-being in your daily life, such as work or relationship?
Well, I have to come back to the power of really good therapy again. I think that's the way I've created space for just myself to focus on my needs and my journey. And I've often said, the best gift you can give your partner is to have a good therapist, because then you don't turn your partner into your therapist. You don't turn your work colleague into your therapist. That you really have a safe space to explore what are the things that you need to do to have a sense of strong mental health, of strong self awareness, and of valuing yourself. And that has really been the place that I've found that.
Just wow, Chris. I've known you a number of years, but this is the first time we've really gotten to chat. And I'm so happy that you are here today as a guest on this episode. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to hear from you again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the time with you. Thank you.